Today I am working on removing this tie rod end that the steering stabilizer bolts onto. We've already removed the steering stabilizer. I have that in another video showing how to take it off and basically refinish it so it looks new again. But today we are going to be removing this tie rod end right here and replacing it with a new one. The first thing I want to do is remove this cotter pin. When installing a new tie rod end, you want to make sure that the one you reinstall is basically about the same distance from this lock nut on your threads. So what you want to do is take a wire brush and clean your threads up really well. I always take a white paint marker and mark where my threads are on the old tie rod so I can measure the distance on the new one to get an almost factor. I'll still have to take this vehicle in for an alignment when it's done, but at least when I reinstall the new tie rod end, it will be close to where this old one is that I'm taking out. You can also count how many threads there are exposed. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 threads exposed. So I'll remember that too when I reinstall it. The next step, with the bar still mounted to the truck, you want to loosen up your lock nut. Then with my 1/16" socket, I want to take off this castle nut. I will leave the castle nut on at about, with a couple threads left, just enough to strike it with the hammer. And what hitting it with the hammer did was break this loose enough. Now I can undo this nut, and the whole tie rod will come right out, and I can change the tie rod end. Comparing new to old, the old part, the boot has obviously failed. Lots of old, just nasty grease in there. It's just an old part. It should be replaced in the suspension, and that's why I'm doing all of the suspension on the Jimmy, just so I know for peace of mind that all these parts are updated. These square bodies are awesome because all these parts are so cheap. So to upgrade all of my ball joints and tie rods was only $150. Using the paint marks we made earlier on the old tie rod end, I matched it on the new one so that I can make sure that my jam nut is almost where this one was. Again, we'll have to take this in for an alignment, but at least it will be safe enough to drive in for an alignment. And now we will install this new tie rod end. Now we want to thread the new tie rod end into the tie rod bar. Then we want to take the new tie rod and fit it back in place and put our castle nut on. Now we want to torque the castle nut down all the way. We want to line up the castle with the actual cotter pin slot. Install your cotter pin. Tighten up your jam nut. Now we want to add grease to our new tie rod fitting, and we want to add enough grease until you see it come out from underneath of this rubber boot. Okay, we got plenty under there.